Opinions and content of the show are those of the host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect those of Local Matters Broadcasting LLC, its owners, partners, affiliates, assigns, or heirs. Having said that, it's now time to say good morning, St. Johns County. Welcome to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging, better known in our community as the COA. We are your local nonprofit agency who for the past 51 years has been leading and advocating for the dignity and independence of seniors and responding to their changing needs. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA, broadcasting to you live from the studio, WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. Before we get into our show, let me remind everyone that if you have a question, comment, or a suggestion for a radio show topic, you can send that to radio@coasjc.org. Again, you can email that to radio@coasjc.org. If you have a question this morning during today's show, feel free to send it, and we will try to work it in because I do have my email up in front of me this morning. So, well, Happy New Year to you. I haven't been on the radio with you for a couple weeks because Christmas and New Year's both fell on Thursdays, and so it's been a few weeks since we've been together, so thank you for joining us and tuning in. My guests this morning are Scott Hetzinger and Wally Waters with Lendinier Outreach, an organization whose mission is to make the gift of hearing available to all low-income people, beginning with seniors over the age of 60 in our Northeast Florida community. And also joining us is audiologist Dr. Diana Ortiz with Lifeline Audiologists. Good morning to all three of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
There you go. All right. Well, we have Scott and Wally are sharing a microphone. So bear with these two gentlemen as they have to switch it back and forth between the two of them. So one of the things that I always like to do in the first part of our time together on the show is just let people learn about each of you personally. And so if you would just each take a little bit of time, talk about yourself, you know, how long you've been living in St. Johns County, why you love it, you know, things of that nature. So just give our listeners a little bit of background about each of you personally, if you would.
Sure. This is Scott, and I was born in Buffalo, New York, moved down in 1979, been in the area. Now I'm a Floridian. I love it here, love the water, love fishing, love sports, and love the beach.
Hi, this is Wally. I'm an Indiana State graduate out of Hammond, Indiana. Also a 4-year Air Force veteran working with police dogs. And to me, I just really like working with Lendinier. I've done a lot of outreach for them. And it's just very heartwarming to see people that after they walk out of the audiologist's office that they can hear. Thank you.
Hi, this is Diana Ortiz. I'm the doctor of audiology. I'm new to Florida. I moved here about 7 months ago. I've loved living in Jacksonville and serving this community. I currently work with Lifeline Audiology. We have 4 practices here in Jacksonville, and I love being part of Lendinier. And we give prescription hearing aids, not the over-the-counters, to people who otherwise can't afford them. So I'm really happy to be serving this team.
All right. Well, thank you all three for being here. And I'm very excited about this topic because I personally use hearing aids and have had to really have needed them for a long time. But there was a long time that I couldn't afford them. And so just to give you a little bit of background on my personal story with the current hearing aids that I have, I did try some of the cheaper ones that just really didn't do the trick, right? And then at one point, I did try the really top of the line ones, and back then we just couldn't get them adjusted so that it worked right? So it was a 30-day trial, and so I said, you know what, just keep them. I'm not going to spend the money on them. And then about 3.5 years ago, I was at my previous employer. I had somebody that I worked with, and she knew about my desire to have hearing aids. And a loved one of hers passed away. She was responsible for going through his belongings, and she came across these hearing aids that he had just bought a month before. And she gave them to me. And when I looked at all the paperwork, they were like $5,400, which at that point in my life, I could not have afforded. And so I just had to go to an audiologist and get them reprogrammed for myself. And they have just been a true blessing for me personally. And so I was just so excited to have you on the show to talk about this and to educate our listeners about more of what you do. So let's just, if we would, before we take our first break, go ahead, if you would, and talk about Lend a Near Outreach and educate our listeners about your organization.
Sure. I'll give you a little bit of history. Lend a Near actually started at Pablo Towers in March of 2012. A lady had hearing aids, and they actually broke, and they were being paid monthly installments. And the audiologist wanted to increase the credit limit, and another audiologist came along and said, we can reprogram these hearing aids, and so you can have them and everything and hear and that type of thing. So a bunch of ladies got together, formed Lend a Near in March of 2012. It ran pretty good. I say it took a little vacation around 2016, and I took it over as executive director June of 2016. Since then, we only had $400 in the bank at the time, but we started raising funds, and our main mission is to provide the gift of hearing by furnishing quality hearing aids to those with limited or no means in an atmosphere of dignity and compassion. And we provide hearing aids. It's based on income. We do not discriminate at all. The income level is poverty plus 300% for one person. And we will provide the testing and the hearing aids at no cost. And they are brand new hearing aids with a 3-year warranty, rechargeable. And we find that people that need hearing aids with lower income will not go to an audiologist and get tested because they know they can't afford the hearing aid. So we have to do a lot of outreach to different areas to try to find the people that need hearing aids. There's an application process that they fill out, and then we go ahead and get them scheduled and everything in a group area, either at the Arlington Eye Clinic up in Jacksonville, or we go over to the White Wildflower. We've gone there a couple times as we get groups together. So it's really been rewarding to help out the people. And obviously, we only work on donations for funding. So we're always looking for funding in the area. So that's basically what we do. And we've fed a lot of people. We've done a couple main events. I know in 2019, before COVID, we went over to Hastings and fed 38 people. And that was really rewarding right before Christmas. And people actually were crying. They were going outside. They could hear their footsteps. They could hear the leaves, the wind. One lady even said, I kept on leaving my turn signal on, and now I no longer have to do that. So it's been really rewarding.
That's fantastic. Well, I love it. All right. Well, we're looking forward to continuing our conversation. We're going to go ahead and take our first break right now. You're listening to the weekly radio show of St. Johns County Council on Aging. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging here on WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Routson, Program Director for COA, and I'm joined this morning by 3 individuals representing Lend a Near Outreach. We have Scott, Wally, and best referred to as Dr. O. And each of them introduced themselves during the first segment and gave us a little brief introduction about Lend a Near Outreach and what they do. And so I just want to jump into my next question here. So approximately 37 million American adults have some form of hearing loss. And studies have shown that hearing loss can have profound effects such as isolation, depression, safety issues, social anxiety, reduced job performance, and can contribute to Alzheimer's and dementia. Yet, health insurance companies and Medicare Parts A and B do not cover the cost of hearing aids. I was wondering if you could talk about why this is. When there are so many people that need hearing aids and the research has shown that it has all these negative impacts on people, why won't the insurance companies cover the cost of it?
Yeah, it's really sad. I find in my experience, insurance is typically the bad guy. It's pre-existent or existing condition challenges. So some insurance companies, they categorize hearing loss as a pre-existing condition. So it really makes it difficult, for them to cover it if it's a pre-existing condition. Sometimes insurance companies see it as elective devices, so something more cosmetic or something not as serious to cover. which is really hard too. Another reason that is hearing aids, they're really expensive. So insurance companies opt to not pay that cost. So it's sad.
Yeah. Well, I get their point, but I feel like the argument could be made. I mean, there's a lot of things that they do cover, right, that could kind of fall into that same category. I mean, like somebody has a bad hip, right? I mean, I realize they have to get to a certain level before that they will cover the cost of a hip replacement. But still, I mean, you could say, well, that's a pre-existing condition for somebody, right? I mean, but anyways, it is very sad because there are so many people who could use it, can't afford it, and the insurance does not cover it. And when I think about the impact that it has, like I mentioned, it talks about isolation, right? And I can attest to that because I know that there are certain situations that I avoid because even with hearing aids, right, I can't carry on a good conversation. So, for example, we have a fundraising event at Council on Aging every year. It's a gala, and there's usually music going on and people talking, and even with hearing aids, it's very difficult to be in that type of atmosphere and carrying on a conversation with somebody because I just can't pick up every word that they're saying, right? So for me, sometimes I just kind of avoid that. I'll be there, but not necessarily. I might be somewhere else where I can't really hear the music, right? Another part of the building where I can't hear the music and there's not a lot of background people talking and so forth, so that I can carry on that conversation. But so I get that where it talks about the isolation aspect, which we know from research, isolating yourself is not good because we are human beings and we are designed to be social creatures and to interact with others. And so it's not good to isolate yourself, right? So I can speak about that. Safety issues also as well. If you can't hear things, right, you're gonna miss out on something that could keep you safe, right? So I think of for myself, like I run 3 times a week, right, and it's important that I can hear my surroundings so that I'm safe while I'm out on my run because I go through some different intersections during my run. So there's just a lot of different things there, and you would think that the insurance companies would want to cover these so that it would keep people safe and keep them from isolating themselves and all the other things. But then there's also the research about that it contributes to Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yeah, that's new research, especially in the last, I think, 20 years. There's lots of research with hearing loss and the brain, because when people think about hearing, many times they think that hearing is just the outer ear, so the ear part, but we hear with the brain. A lot of systems have to work for sound to travel to reach the brain, but ultimately it's the brain that processes the sound and puts all the sounds together so that we can understand everyone. So when you're not getting those signals, the brain will start to forget, and that's where a lot of that research is associated with.
Mm-hmm. Well, so let me jump into this next question then. I talked about the importance of having good quality hearing aids, right? Because I've tried out, at one point I ordered some from Amazon and they were like, I don't know, less than $100. And, but they helped a little bit, but not very good, not good quality. So it's the expensive ones that, like what I'm currently wearing, that really are helpful. And so when I think about what you're giving to the people to come to Lend an Ear Outreach, what quality of hearing aids are you providing these people?
Yeah, so we are providing people with prescription hearing aids. These are really different than the over-the-counter ones in quality. So there's lots of different more in the quality that is better with the with the prescription one. Sorry. One of the reasons people try to do with the over-the-counter type is that the over-the-counter type, when you do get them, many people don't realize that those hearing aids are locked. So when you buy it from over-the-counter, wherever you buy it from, you can't take those hearing aids to an audiologist for them to reprogram. So that's one of the reasons not to not to go that
so
route.
So they've kind of designed it as a one-size-fits-all type thing.
Yeah, and just the quality on my side when I take a look at them, because some of them you can program, but it's very limited, and people it's not the same quality. It's a little hard to explain, just because I see so many of them, of the prescription types, that when I see someone with the over-the-counter, it's just different.
Mm-hmm. And so you wanted to add something?
Yeah, one thing that the audiologists do, they do a testing and everything in a sound booth. They hear the different pitches, the different tones and stuff like that, and they're able to take their readings and program it into the hearing aid to make up for the loss of those pitches and tones and the sounds. And that really helps, rather than just buy something over the counter.
Yeah, and a lot of times the prescription ones are going to be a lot better in noise. And noise, like you mentioned earlier, is one of the situations that most people with hearing loss struggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's, mine have a lot of different features that I don't use very often, but they do have I can connect it to my phone, and if I want it to just focus forward, I can tap something on the app and it will just focus forward. If I want it more of a surround sound, it can do that as well. And but I can also adjust it from my app. I can adjust the volume on it. If you're someone who I don't really want to listen to, I can just turn the volume down, right? And you won't even know that, right? But if it's something like I really need to kind of zero in, I can also adjust the volume to kind of increase it so that I can hear it a little bit better. But yeah, they do make a difference. And you talked about pitch and tone, and I think about for myself, that has been a very interesting thing for me, because some people I can be right across the table like we are right now, and I can hear them perfectly fine, right? But if they have a different pitch or tone, right, then same situation, we're right across the table, but I can't pick up necessarily everything that they're saying because their pitch or the tone of their voice is in that range that my hearing can't pick up. So can you maybe elaborate a little bit on why that happens?
Yeah, so when you are in noise is a tricky situation, and lots of people with hearing loss require a greater signal to noise ratio. So what that means is when you have normal hearing, you can be in a lot of noise, but you understand the person next to you because they are maybe slightly louder than the noise. But when you have a hearing loss, before you can even hear sounds, it's a lot more until you can hear it. But because of that you need the signal to be a lot louder than the noise than if you have normal hearing. Mm-hmm. So the prescription hearing aids are good at noise because they can tell the difference between the noise and what you're trying to hear. And they'll separate those two. It's like a mini computer in the hearing aid.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's really amazing. We think about the day and age that we live in today, right? With all the technology. And I would assume, from your perspective, being in your line of work for however many years you've been doing this, right? You've seen these hearing aids evolve over time. And so when we come back from our commercial break, which is going to come up here in just a moment, I'd like you to kind of walk through that for just a little bit, to talk about how, in your experience, you've seen the technology advance to make the hearing aids even better than what they have been over the years. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take our next break. We'll be right back after these messages. St. Johns County Council on Aging Weekly Radio Show. And welcome back to the Weekly Radio Show, the St. Johns County Council on Aging here on WFIY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. And before we continue on with our show, let me let you know that next week in the studio, Megan Wall with Legal Aid will be with us. So tune in, same place, same time, right here on WFIY 102.1 FM. Joining me this morning is Scott and Wally and Dr. O with London Ear Outreach. And before we forget, I would like you to tell our listeners how they can get in contact with you in case there's somebody out there listening that falls into that income level that they might qualify for this, or they know somebody that might. How can they reach out to you?
Sure. We have a phone number that is manned. It's 904-241-HERE. That number is 241-4327. Or you can contact our executive director, Dr. Jude Raphael, and I'll give you her email address. It's drjude@LondonEarOutreach.org. And I'll say that again at farther at the end of the program and everything. But again, it's 904-241 4327.
And you also have a website.
Yes. Yes, we do. It's lendoneeroutreach.org. And you can go there, and eventually we're going to have the application on the website so they can just automatically fill it in.
All right, fantastic. All right, well, in just a moment, I want to ask you to share some success stories with people who have come to Lend an Ear Outreach. But before that, I want to go back to what we were talking about before the break, and that is just kind of the evolution of hearing aids. And we were talking during the commercial break about way back when they used to have a big horn that they stuck in their ear to try to hear better. And so we've come a long way since then. But just in your time in practice, talk about the evolution that you've seen.
Yeah, so they've come a long way. They used to be body worn back in the 80s. Used to be on your body. So I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people don't get hearing aids, is because they think that they're really big, but they're really small nowadays. You can't see them on someone. So a lot of times when I'm in the clinic and someone walks in and they're wearing hearing aids, I can't really tell unless I'm standing behind them, or I ask them most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But hearing aid wise, they used to be a lot of times battery operated. So what I've seen is a trend from battery to a lot of them are now rechargeable. So you just put them in a little charger, almost like your phone at night,
Mm-hmm.
and then that turns them off. And in the morning, you take them out and they're ready to go. So it's really easy. They've gotten smaller, more rechargeable, even in the clinic. So, because it used to be connecting them to the computer was a nightmare with all the wires and cables for each brand and manufacturer. And now everything is wireless, and it's amazing.
That's great. Well, mine are the battery operated ones. And then I wonder with the rechargeable ones, are they only rechargeable, or do they also have like a battery option? So like, let's say your power goes out for 3 days and you can't charge them, then does it also have a battery option?
Yep. So I have patients who just prefer the battery ones. So they always make them available for battery operated as well. So you can go have the same model, but battery or rechargeable based on preference. And even with the charger, there's some smart chargers. So it'll hold a charge for a couple days. So if your power goes out, you can put them in the charger without that electricity, and they'll still charge. And it'll take about 4 hours to fully charge, and then you're good to go for the next day. And you can do that maybe about 3 times, so it holds you for a week, or if you had to go camping or something. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, and mine are battery operated, and the batteries are very inexpensive. They're not, but I do have to change them often. Every 3 to 4 days, I have to put new ones in there.
Yeah.
So I can see where the rechargeable ones would be very, very beneficial for folks. But I love that there's that option that they're rechargeable, but also have the battery as part of it. So, all right, I would like to just switch over and talk about some success stories that you've seen in the time that you've been doing this. If you would just kind of share with our listeners about how somebody has come to you and you helped them out, and then how that impacted them.
Thank you, Brian. I'm kind of the last guy that they see. Once they get their hearing aids, they come to me. I take some of the testimonies. I take a picture of them with a little signage that says these hearing aids were made possible through donations it could be the Lions Club, a women's club, various clubs that we get donations from, just as proof that we could send later that look where your money's going to and stuff. But to me, one of the greatest days I had, we did a 7-year-old and a lady who was 100 years old in one day in one clinic. Now, I told that story to a lot of people, and they go, why would you give a 100-year-old person new hearing aids? I said, listen, if they could get even 1 year or 5 years out of them, God bless her, and we're happy to do it. And, if she could hear, it makes it easier on her, makes it easier on her grandkids, her children, her husband, everybody. So like Scott said before, we don't discriminate as far as age, whatever, and that was my greatest day, because I said, man, we just fitted a 7-year-old who's going to have that for a long, long time. and a 100-year-old lady, you know. But I've heard all these stories. I've heard people say, I can hear myself walk because they're walking through the grass, and they get so excited telling me this. They go, oh my gosh, Wally, I'm so happy. Wait till I get home. My wife's going to be so happy. My kids are going to be happy. My grandkids are going to say, Grandma, you could hear me now. So all these stories, that people share with me. I love when they walk out after they see the audiologist because they have this big smile on their face, and I know that they're hearing. So it just warms my heart, man.
Yeah,
I'm getting
absolutely.
choked up because it's something to see. It really is. That you can help somebody like that, and at no cost. Most of the people cannot afford it.
Exactly.
They just can't. So, it's just, I could go on and on and on, but that's, the people who really appreciate the most are the kids and the grandkids, because they can hear grandma or grandpa, here, especially around Christmas time. They go, oh my gosh, this is going to be great, because they could really hear me now, and they could get into the conversation where before, they were isolated. They were sitting in the back, back room or back chair or on the sofa, and everybody else is talking. They can't talk. So, those are the great stories.
And that's a very good point that you bring up, because for myself personally, if, I know that there are times that I just didn't bother to engage with people because I knew I wasn't going to be able to hear them properly, right? I could hear them, but a lot of times I couldn't pick up on everything that they were saying. So I would just kind of not engage with them. And so therefore I missed out on those meaningful conversations that you get to have when you're socializing with folks. And so, you think of the 100-year-old person that you mentioned, and that music means we got to take our next break. All right, we'll be right back after these messages to continue our conversation. Hey, welcome back to the final segment of the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging here on WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. And prior to our commercial break, we were talking about that a success story in a 7-year-old and then a 100-year-old that you gave on the same day. And I was just elaborating on the fact that, for the 100-year-old, somebody had asked, well, why would you do that? Well, now with the hearing aids, she will feel like she can engage in a conversation with her family and her friends and whoever. Whereas when you can't hear, you tend to not bother engaging because you're more than likely not going to be able to understand what they're saying. And the people are going to get frustrated because they're going to talk louder so that you can hear. And then they get kind of tired of doing that. Or sometimes they forget. And then you keep asking what, and then they get frustrated because you keep asking what. And so for the 100-year-old, now she can hear, and now she's going to feel compelled to engage. And I assume that was probably the case for her. So what I wanted to do this last segment, though, is I wanted to make sure folks know, one, how to support you financially, right? Because you are a 501c3 nonprofit. And two, if they're out there and they do have some hearing aids, like for myself, how I got mine, maybe they want to donate them. Maybe their loved one passed away and they have these great quality hearing aids and they want to donate them. So how can folks donate financially as well as maybe some used hearing aids?
Yeah, that's great. We love all donations. So if you have a hearing aid and maybe you've upgraded, we would love for you to drop them off or one of our clinics. It's going to be our Argyle clinic. So the location is 8553 Argyle Business Loop, Suite D in Jacksonville, Florida, 32244. And with those hearing aids, the hearing aids that get donated, we typically give those to children. So it's really rewarding to see where they go.
Yeah, and one of the things we're talking about off the air is if you don't want to drive clear up to Jacksonville, if you want to bring them to our main location here in St. Augustine at Council on Aging, you can bring them and drop them off, and then I will let those of you at Lindenere know that they're available, and you can stop down and get those, and we'll get them to somebody that can use them. So that's fantastic. Your website talks about that you're looking for volunteers. Talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind. How can people volunteer with you?
We're always looking for volunteers. We do clinics at the Lions Club up in Arlington, and also we will do separate clinics like at the Way Clinic and Wildflower, etc. So if you'd like to volunteer, you could just call us or we'll get a hold of us and stuff. And I know Brian will wrap it up, or Scott will wrap it up with the phone numbers and the addresses again before we sign off and everything. But it's very rewarding. You get to meet a lot of great people and you work with a lot of audiologists, and it's just a very fulfilling and heartwarming volunteering effort on everybody's part.
Well, and I just want to say that I'm thankful that you exist, because I know that there are so many people out there who are following that low income level, and you said it's up to 300% of the poverty level, right?
Poverty plus 300%,
yeah,
correct.
Yeah. So that's a pretty fair range, when I think about that. And there's just a lot of people out there that fall in that range that really could need these but can't afford them, right? And as we mentioned before, the cheaper ones just aren't the same quality and have the same level as the ones that you provide. And so thank you for what you do. So if you would give one more time, so we'll make sure that we don't run out of time, the way that folks can get in contact with you.
Sure. On the website, lendoneeroutreach.org, or call 904-241-HERE, which is the numbers 4327. And I just want to go back also on the volunteer. We need people that can go out and do presentations after we train them. Like I said, we got to go out there to find the people. If you're don't have the funds to go into an audiologist, we can go out there, tell them about our program, and then they can fill out the applications, and then we can go ahead and get them tested and fitted. So these are going to like HUD facilities, lower income areas throughout the county. We've gone to Wildflower, like Wally was saying, and also Hastings area, but I'm sure there's a lot of other areas. So if you want us to come out to do a presentation, maybe at one of your locations, if you're running a facility, we'd be glad to do that. Again, 904-241-HERE, which is the numbers 4327.
And then how many people per year do you typically serve?
We do between 65 or 75 people per year, depending on the clinics. And there's some people that will go directly to the audiologist's office. Since we started back in 2012, we have done 1,000 people.
Okay.
We have done over 2,000 hearing tests for people. And we just feel we've really been successful. The hearing takes a lot longer. It takes about an hour, by the time the audiologist goes through the whole process and everything else. So we try to keep it between 5 or 6 or 7 people, depending on scheduling and everything else. So,
and then long term, as you look into the future, what is your goal? How many people would you love to be? Like if you had enough money and you had enough volunteers and you had enough people involved in your organization, how many people would you love to be able to serve every year?
Every year, if we could do anything over 100 in a year, I think it would be a great success. We had a very good 2025 because we did a lot of big events. When I mean big events, we'll have maybe 10 or 12 people, a couple of audiologists, etc. And but those are rare and few. I'll mention one place. Melrose, Florida. We've been very successful. We'll probably get another 20 to 30 people this year from Melrose. And Melrose, Florida borders on 3 different counties and stuff too. So we're pulling in all those counties, but they're really aggressive. Anybody that qualifies, they say, come on, let's get here. Lendoneer's here. You're going to get hearing aids at no cost. You need to do it. So they're really helping those people in those counties. And I tell you, the rural counties are our people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said before, Brian, there's not a lot of people in Ponte Vedra that's going to need hearing aids, unfortunately, but there's a lot of people in the rural areas that really, really need that for continued and good hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me also mention with Lifeline, when audiologist, when Dr. O, she goes and tests someone, and all of a sudden you get to that point where here is the cost of the hearing aids. And a lot of times, if they don't have Lendoneer, the person just leaves the office after the hearing test. So
yeah, it's really sad. I've been at a couple of practices at other places, not in Florida, but just over my career, where you get tested and someone has a really profound or significant hearing loss and they just don't have the money for hearing aids. And we have to turn them away. There's a big need. And the prescription hearing aids they fit all losses, especially the significant ones, because the over-the-counter ones, they just don't do it. They can't reach those levels. Right. So it's a prescription one is amazing.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to receive if they come to you and they qualify. They're going to get a brand new one. And I think, as you mentioned, it has a 3-year warranty that comes with it. So if something happens, they can bring it back, and there's not that expense of, because some people might be like, well, what happens if it's not working right? I can't afford that. Well, it has the warranty that comes with it.
Exactly. And if they qualify, even after the 3 years, they're eligible for new hearing aids through our program every 5 years. So because after the technology, kind of like a phone, will start to go. So if they're eligible, they can continue to receive that throughout their life. So it's amazing.
All right. Well, that music means it's time for our show to end. Thank you all so much for being here and being a part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. We'll see you here next week when Megan Wall with the Legal Aid is our guest. Have a great week, everybody.